Well, for this week's Climate Close-Up, we're going to have a look at humidity, how it's changing in a warming climate, and we're also going to have a look at the different ways that we have to measure humidity. So one method that we use to measure our humidity is called specific humidity. Now that is a look at how much water is in the air. Typically what we do to measure that is we take a mass of air, say a kilogram of air, and we look at how many grams of water are in that air mass. So the specific humidity, again, is kind of an absolute measure of looking at exactly how much water is in the air. Another type of humidity that we use is called relative humidity. That takes the amount of water that's in the air and it compares it to how much water the atmosphere can hold. In this example, we are about halfway full of water, so we've got a relative humidity of about 50%. Now here's where things can get a little bit confusing. If we take our temperature and we increase our temperature, well, suddenly the atmosphere can hold more water. We have not seen any change in our specific humidity, the amount of water that's in the air, but because the atmosphere can now hold more water, we're farther away from saturation, so our relative humidity has decreased. So with the different types of humidity, it can sometimes be a bit to keep track of what's going on with regards to that. Now that takes us to dew point. Dew point is another method that we use to measure humidity, and it's what you typically see on our Muggy meter here at Channel 9. What happens with humidity, or dew point rather, in the way we measure that, we take our temperature and lower it all the way down until we have reached saturation, until the atmosphere is completely saturated with water, and the temperature of that point is called your dew point. Now, dew point is easy to wrap our heads around. We know that a 50-degree dew point is pretty dry and comfortable. A 60-degree dew point is a little bit muggy. By the time we get to a 70-degree dew point, we are looking at very humid and sweltering conditions. Also, unlike relative humidity, dew point doesn't really fluctuate as much with temperature. As long as the temperature is above our dew point, you can raise or lower the temperature as much as you want, and the dew point is going to remain the same. The one rule of thumb is that your dew point will never be higher than your air temperature. Now, with that in mind, how has humidity changed over the last 30 or 40 years? Well, our specific humidity, the amount of water in our atmosphere, has increased since 1980, but our temperatures have increased at a faster rate. So because of that, we have actually seen a decrease in our relative humidity. Now, putting that in terms of dew point, we have seen a slight increase in our dew point since 1980, and it's been about a half a degree to a degree Celsius. In terms of what that means for your summertime temperatures, well, it means that across the Midwest, looking at heat and humidity and combining them, and to do that we look at our equivalent temperature, it means that our summers are getting hotter and more humid. Something to be prepared for as we go through this summer for this week's Climate Close-Up.